Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. We're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It's February the 2nd. It's Black History Month, unless you are my former sergeant from the Air Force, in which case it is now January 33rd, I think. We want to welcome you to the Kyle Seraphin Show. If you guys are new and you're joining us, make sure that you are following us on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. That's where you can give us a like on this channel. That's where you can subscribe if you are so inclined. And it's where you're going to find the live chat, which is going right now. And I can't keep track of it because it just keeps on going. Apparently, you guys really get a kick out of Sheila Jackson Lee, the congresswoman from Texas, who always says, "Are you familiar with FBI agent Kyle Seraphin?" She has a hard time with my name. That's the H in the end. It makes it an F sound. Anyway, it is what it is. We're going to just move on. We've got Friendly Friday coming in today. We've got Real Steve Friend, the Real Steve Friend. And if you're not following him, you can find him on social media, both Real_Steve Friend on True Social, or you can find him at Real Steve Friend on Twitter. He'll be joining us momentarily. I don't know where he's been. I hope he's okay. We haven't had a whole lot of time to connect, and I feel kind of lost in the universe. Today is going to be a little bit of a snarky show because that's what we do when we get together. A couple guys who used to be feds, just clowning on our ex-girlfriend, talking about what's going on in the world. There'll be a little bit less news, but there'll be a little bit more fun going into the weekend. So I hope you guys appreciate that. We're going to talk about our sponsors real quick. Then we are going to bring on the Steve. So let's start with our newest sponsor. Again, really excited about this. This is a self-reliance company, folks. This is a company that is going to help you take control of your medical situation. You ever been on a trip? You ever go on a vacation? Or if you're going on a backpacking tour, you're doing anything like that, you go on a road trip, and all you're like, oh my God, the worst thing possible for me right now is that's not what I wanted to hit. Where did it go? Oh no. It didn't work. I added all these different things, and of course, I added the wrong one. So, folks, you can let me just free it. Here's the deal: you go to contingencymedical.com. It's again contingencymedical.com. The promo code is Kyle, Kyle. That'll save you $10. What it is for $300, you get access to telehealth for a year with a physician group. You can use your HSA, by the way, and you're going to get a bunch of antibiotics that can handle things like animal bites, cellulitis, which is a skin infection. You can handle diarrhea, motion sickness, otitis, which is an ear infection. You might need that. Respiratory tract infections, strep throat, traveler's diarrhea, urinary tract infections, and vomiting, which is a huge thing. If you guys get sick and nausea takes you out of the game like it does with me, you may want to be able to just sign up here. Like I said, it's a fire and forget. You carry the pack with you. So you have the pharmacy in your pocket. And so if anything happens to you while you're traveling or even just during your normal life and you're like, I cannot be sick. How many of you have ever said that to your spouse? It's like, I cannot be sick. I have this thing to do. You can actually start it without waiting to go to a doctor's office or an emergency room, making an appointment or any of that stuff. You have pre-treated the solution. These are real pharmacies. This is a real pharmaceutical, and it's coming from a real physician in your state. Really, really cool. Like, here's the thing. It takes the power away from sort of that pharma industry and sort of the healthcare industry that we don't have a lot of trust in after what happened in 2020 and 2021. Okay? Anyway, promo code Kyle, it's going to save you $10. If you guys buy one and you want to buy one for your spouse as well, great idea, or even your kids, you guys can get all of those things done. You set them up individually. They'll send you another code after you use mine. I think you can save $20 after that. So definitely go to contingencymedical.com. I've got mine coming in. It'll be here on Monday. And I'll have my graphics up on Monday too. Again, promo code Kyle, Kyle, save a couple bucks, but that just lets you know that we're the ones sending you over there. And we are really, like I said, I'm really excited about it. Okay, I'm also really excited about bringing on my buddy Steve Friend, who is a wild man. I've got to unmute him. Here we go. What about bringing on this guy? Are you unmuted, Steve? Can I hear you? Nope, you're not. There it goes. Now you're unmuted. Welcome.
All right.
Welcome, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I need to break news. I just refreshed. I've been watching Punxsutawney Phil. Did not see his shadow. Early spring. Real Steve Friend is very excited. No cold weather in Florida anymore.
It's going to go from what, 60 to 68 in the next couple days then?
I mean, it's already skies out, thighs out. I mean, I'm really excited now. I've been refreshing constantly, and 6,000 people were there early in the cold in Pennsylvania. I feel terrible for them, and they woke that little giant rat up, and he didn't see a shadow. So early spring for us all.
I guess that's good. I actually read something on one of the social media feeds that I follow, and they said that if Joe Biden comes out and sniffs a child, then we get 4 more years of Democrats. Does that sound true?
I don't know. I mean, I've been consistent. That apothecary that they've got working overtime in the White House has just, I think he's got to be maxed out, right? Like, I don't think that there's enough. Do they have Narcan ready to go for him? Because
are they hitting him with opiates? You think? That seems like the opposite. Narcan's only going to solve him if he's over there doing the fentanyl that he's bringing in over the border. We should hope that's not the case. We don't need to slow down Joe. He's slowing up.
No, he needs uppers. He needs lots of uppers. What do you think he has in his contingency pack? Just tons of.
Well, I heard there's cocaine in the White House. Nobody knows where it comes from. It's unclear who it could be belonging to and what sort of street pharmacist is slinging it. So there's that.
The shepherd hat. It was Commander's. That's why he was biting everybody. He was cocaine bearing on the Secret Service.
It was cocaine bearing. You think the dog got into the cocaine stash, and that's why he's catching the bad rap. Yet another person taking the fall for Joe Biden is what you're saying.
I mean, look, it's the Biden family business, right? They were just
cocaine.
Well, why not? I mean, they're going around catching bags of cash from Ukraine. Why not?
It's a bold allegation.
Colombia.
It's a really bold allegation. All right, Steve, we got a bunch of stories we're going to come through. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. We start off with my absolute favorite, which is CNN, which everybody here knows. So let's throw them up on the screen. Folks, this is what CNN is leading with today. Apparently, there's still a primary going on for the GOP. I totally forgot because I didn't think that Nikki Haley mattered, but she does. And what you're seeing, if you're watching on our Rumble channel, is the top one, the Haley's latest jab is likely to infuriate Trump. That's what they led with on their homepage. And that's amazing to me because I'm not even sure if Donald Trump is following anything that Nikki Haley does, just like the rest of us don't really care or know. The second thing is the headline, if you click through, is Nikki Haley attacks Trump's morals, age, and wealth as she looks to stave off home state loss. We can get into the deeper part of it, but Steve, nothing says victory to me like staving off a home state loss. How in the world do they think they're going to be able to pitch this lady? Is she just running on the independent vote?
I think she's running on the independent vote, maybe hoping that he gets convicted and pulled off, and then they're going to have to hit some sort of abort mission at the convention and have an open convention at that point. She'll be just in it at that point and be just there at a certain point. Like there's no other options because there's no appetite for Nikki Haley amongst the primary voters. I mean, maybe once you get to a general, when you have a lot more centrist people or people who are late to the game or not really informed, and she's got a name, they've at least heard her name before, and she sounds generally competent, like she can string a sentence together, unlike the current occupant of the White House. They're like, oh, okay, maybe we could put her in here. And then it's her. There's the she aspect to it. But certainly no one who's paying attention now when we're in February, unlike January 33rd. It's 9 months before the general election. And I think people who are actively engaged in the political process are actually studying the candidates. And that's why Nikki Haley got monkey stomped in New Hampshire.
It checks. Let me read a couple of these pieces here. CNN says Haley laid out a stinging character study of the former president in an interview with CNN's Jake Tapper on Thursday. Always nice when you can get an interview with Jake Tapper that is friendly to you. And it also says Haley has found her voice, located a sweet spot where she can target the former president, or decided to commit to a new hardline strategy that she thinks might bring down the overwhelming favorite in his third straight nomination. So, yeah.
This is like government make work for Nikki Haley, right? Like she knows, I mean, she's an educated woman. She knows she does not going to win if there's an actual, unless something catastrophic happens, like where like Donald Trump just, I don't know, strokes out or gets convicted and goes to prison or something like that. Like, I mean, barring that, she can read the tea leaves and she knows that she's not going to win the primary. So what is she doing? Well, she's giving donors an avenue to throw their money to her and probably create some jobs for people that are her political cronies and allies and keep this grift going as long as possible. And then, I don't know, maybe she'll get a speaking gig on MSNBC or CNN sometime this summer when she finally bows out of the race.
Is it theater?
It's always theater. I mean, we have not progressed past the student body president, what was going on in grammar school, right? Like the kid that it was a popularity contest, and the kid that was like, oh, if you elect me, we'll have candy machines and no homework on Friday. That kid was the student body president. And people just they own houses and cars, but they're still doing the same thing, right? Like there's not actual a whole lot of analysis going into it, which is why you have people that are genuinely excited about, like, I don't know, Robert F. Kennedy, and they're saying like, oh, I'm going to vote for him. He's great. I'm like, you agree with him on, 1% of the issues, 100% on 1% of the issues.
I heard that 60% of the time it works every time. Is that not true?
I mean, that's why Will Ferrell should probably run for president. He'd probably do pretty well. I mean, they're saying like Oprah back in 2018 and The Rock. And I'm like, do you think The Rock's going to give up a $30 million payday at a superhero movie to go have some sort of meeting with, I don't know, some ambassador from Lithuania on a random Wednesday to talk about trade policy?
No, I'm fairly confident that he just signed up. Didn't he just sign on to the board too of the WWE? Is that what I read? I'm fairly confident.
Football. He owns the United Football League now, right?
No, but I think he actually signed on with WWE. Somebody just signed on with WWE on the board and made a big payday there too. You could tell how much of importance it is to me. But I remember sort of casually seeing that. You mentioned The Rock. It triggered that in my brain.
My kids still think wrestling's real, so I love watching.
How dare you? Don't take that from them.
Friday Night Raw with them.
Mark Houck told you exactly what your job is. Your job is to protect your children's innocence. And if they believe that it's legit, then that is your job, to protect that as long as possible. Yes? Now, of course.
100%. I mean, I'm all in on it.
Steve, your connection is starting to falter, of course, because but it's fine. I'm watching it. It's going like between it's like a stoplight that's not working. It's going red and then yellow and then green. So whatever things are going on is afoot at the moment. However, I want to go into a story that you kicked to me. We're going to visit political theater in a minute too, because there's more of it. I've got videos of it, and you guys will like that. Let's do this one real quick and get your commentary. An FBI agent was indicted. This is actually coming directly out of the Southern District of Texas, McAllen, Texas. 36-year-old federal agent from Houston has been charged with the theft of personal and government property and providing false statements, says the United States attorney. The authorities have arrested Nicholas Anthony Williams, an FBI agent, 30. Let's see, he was working out of the Houston field office since 2019 and allegedly served in both the criminal violent gang squad and the counterterrorism squad. Charges allege that between March 22 and July 23, Williams took money and or property from multiple residences while executing search warrants as an FBI special agent, and then allegedly converted the money or property to his personal use. He stole cell phones, which were FBI property, provided false statements, which resulted in fraudulent charges on his government credit card, faces up to 10 years. What's going on here, Steve?
I like how they say he served in Houston since 2019. So that was his first office, right? We're clearing this. I don't even think he's a GS-13 yet. New agent.
It's out of McAllen, which makes me think that, because McAllen is not the Houston field office. That's out of San Antonio. So my guess is that he must have taken a transfer to McAllen.
Maybe to get out of Houston,
right?
Perhaps. And then he did violent crime, and then probably 2021 happened, and they moved him to the JTTF, as what happened to me. And because we have to go after white supremacists now, right? But clearly made it through the vetting process to be hired by the FBI. And, that whole integrity thing, not really paramount anymore. But he was, I mean, what kind of like really good stuff are you getting on search warrants for violent crime arrests? Like, you've been on lots of search warrants. Did you ever look around and be like, oh, I mean, a lot of big screen TVs, but it's not like you can sneak that out.
And it's not like they're going to be like current or modern. They're the cheapest big screen TV possible. I don't necessarily know. I guess I've seen cash. We had a microwave full of cash one time. Somebody was stashing all their things. I also saw, we did a search warrant on a guy in New Mexico, and he had an entire room. I've never seen anything like this before, actually, but I guess this is a thing. He had an entire room that was half full of boxes of shoes that had never been worn. Like he was like a sneakerhead. And the other half of the room was filled with hats. Like, I don't know if they're limited edition or if he just was compulsive or he had like a subscription to Lids, but he was buying ball caps essentially. And he had a ton of them. Is there any possibility this guy is getting strung up because he's a suspendable, or do we think that this guy's just a dirtbag and they have to show it?
I mean, if he's stealing, he's definitely a dirtbag. He might have tried to take some scalps with him at the same time. I was just reflecting when I was a cop and we did a search warrant. There was a guy's house we went into, and he said, "Hey, that's my entertainment room. That's my entertainment room." And I was like, walked in there, and I was expecting to see like a surround sound and man's cave, and it was a stripper pole.
Yeah,
that was
why not?
He devoted an entire room to it. And I'm like,
it's a strong move. It's a bold move to take up like serious real estate for entertaining things that are going to cost you more money. I can't imagine, right?
I imagine that he probably had, honesty and integrity come to visit him every Friday night, and it's the same as dropping I don't know, your Netflix account.
When honesty and integrity have illegitimate children out of wedlock, what do you call them? What are the children of honesty and integrity?
What's the stripper's baby's name that's Hunter Biden's?
Cinnamon, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I should know. And I feel actually kind of bad about that whole story. That story seems
I
really
do.
awful.
I mean, that's a grandchild that they can't even put a stocking up for.
I don't want to make fun of strippers' kids. I actually think that's punching down. That's below us. But I just want to know what the name is, because the naming convention actually is somewhat amusing to me, only as kind of a rip. This is the kind of stuff that we would probably talk about if we were sitting on surveillance, not getting briefed on the case as Steve D'Antuono would like us to believe. Like, you and I have been getting we've been getting all this weird media hits for the last week. People wanting to know more about the pipe bomber, which happened in, 3 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're over 3 years now, and now there's renewed interest. I sort of attribute a little bit of it to this idea of we're no longer in the age of broadcasting. We're in the age of narrowcasting. And I've done a lot of media in the last year and some change, and I repeatedly go on media that you would think would be sympathetic to my sort of political leanings, and still they have no idea what I've been talking about. And it's a little bit disheartening, because you think like I've just been screaming into the ether, but at the same time, I think that there's these audiences that you assume because you are consuming the news that everyone's consuming the same content that you are, but there's just a lot of content out there. And as a result of that, there are legitimate audiences that are pretty sizable that have no idea what you and I were talking about, which we just have to make it our mission to keep going out there and banging the drum on.
You had a couple of, I'm gonna go to a sponsor read in a second here, but you had a couple of, I think, salient observations that you made the other day. We were on Jesse Kelly, and I think they were strong. My wife goes like, "Were you doing a backhanded kind of smack at Steve for saying you didn't know if he was going to land it?" And I was like, "No, I don't know what Steve's always going to talk about." Just like he just said broad and narrow casting, I would have never come up with that. That's why I like talking to you, because your brain works differently than mine. And some of the things that you see as issues, they never occur to me until you say it. And then I go, "Oh, that's obviously correct." Some of the issues about J6 bombing, the most important one was the reference to the carjacking you said. Can you share that with our audience here too?
Well, we've all assumed that the pipe bomb is connected to what happened at the Capitol. They're different locations. They're violent crime, and everybody's always connected those. Well, there must be a conspiracy. They're connecting one to another. Well, you're doing an investigation. You can't assume that. So they're essentially assuming facts that are not in evidence, which is an indication that you're not doing a proper investigation. And to highlight that, I said, I imagine there was a carjacking in Southeast DC on January 6, 2021, because there's always a carjacking in Southeast DC. Are you connecting that to the Capitol? Well, that's a violent crime. Why aren't you connecting that? And again, you have to prove that there's a connection between the two of them, or you've exposed yourself as just making assumptions. And that's not what the premier law enforcement agency, the FBI, self-anointed, should be doing.
And then what's the biggest way to avoid being detected by the FBI?
Well, we've been reliably informed by the Attorney General that if you do something at nighttime, then they can't figure that out. So the fact that the pipe bombs were laid down at the night, I mean, look, they should be looking at suspects who are doing that to Catholic churches, I guess, because that's their modus operandi.
It's too clever for the FBI. Do we believe that, honestly, though? Because for all the amount of clowning we're going to do on the ex-girlfriend, is there any possibility that the FBI is not that competent to run down one person that did one thing on one day?
With the sheer volume of resources, no, because they can just always go to like the number one gun is, we'll give you money, just turn them in. And I mean, I keep saying, like, do you get an on the spot award for turning in the guy next to you in the cubicle because he was the one who planted the pipe bomb for the FBI?
More on that in 1 second. Let me go. It's too fun. All right. I want to say thanks to another sponsor that is all about getting prepared and the contingencies that you need to have squared away, just like Contingency Medical. This is 4patriots.com/Kyle. Again, 4patriots.com/Kyle, the number 4. Patriots.com/Kyle. Prepare or repair is what I have to say about that. It's the same thing in the medical world. If you have not got your calories prepared and stored, if you don't have your electrical situation, which means lighting and heating and your appliances squared away, generators, whether they be solar or otherwise, get yourself squared away so that you are not a liability in the pending God knows what. It's 2024. Things are going to get stupid and weird. If you live in an urban area, this is going to be the biggest priority, is that you have the ability to make sure that you don't have to go and stand in a line in a store and deal with whatever chaos happens there. Get yourself a little bit of peace of mind. You can do that for not very much money by going to 4patriots.com/Kyle. And when I say not very much money, I mean the cost of panic. When people start saying, like, I'm going to bring down boatloads of rubles or whatever it is because everything has failed, that's not the time to be able to do this. You want to go ahead and spend your dollars up front and go ahead and have it stored. These things last for up to 25 years. So go to 4patriots.com/Kyle. Get some emergency food and make sure you are not one of those people who's just waiting, I don't know, for the government to serve you or save you or whatever they might do. You want to talk on the spot awards?
Yeah, this was in our background chat that's been going on. So an on-the-spot award in the FBI, they give bonuses, cash bonuses for some sort of performance that is exceeding. It's supposed to be beyond your own job, but they're so desperate to give out the money that they just give you money for doing your job. And I understand a lot of the times it should go to support people because they don't make nearly what the agents make. So it'll be you'll be chuckling at it. It's like, well, this person, found a box of paper clips. So we're going to give them an on-the-spot award because that was missing. It was missing government property. So we're going to give them money for that. But it gets ridiculous to the point where in my office in Jacksonville, they gave an on-the-spot award to people who found a baby raccoon in the parking lot and like nursed it to health. And then I guess returned it to the wild to go digging through trash cans.
Where did they nurse it back to health?
I don't, that's why I never went to go see the nurse.
there may or may not have been a baby raccoon just like hanging out, like a feral animal was just hanging out in the Jacksonville field office. What?
Run an IV through it. I mean, that was legitimate, and they were recognized at an all-employee meeting. I mean, it spans it. I got an award for recovering a kidnapped girl, like in rural Nebraska, and then getting her home to Arkansas.
What's that worth to the FBI?
$500.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was my job. I didn't ask for the money, and they recognized it because that's definitely like kind of a rare experience. Like there's a reason I remember it. It didn't happen all the time.
Right.
I didn't ask for that. And it was nice to get, but $500 after taxes, like $350.
That's right. I got
nowadays it's like half a bag of groceries.
I got, we'll talk about that in a second too. I got an on-the-spot award. I got 2 of them that are really, really good. One, I saved a guy's life who was in cardiac arrest, fell to the floor, and nobody was doing CPR, and they paged out for a medic. And I took my time going up there because they didn't page out for a medic and say, someone is having a cardiac event on the 4th floor. Will you please join us? They said, would any available medic please join the nurse on the 4th floor? Any available medic to the 4th floor? And I was like, oh. And my buddy's like, hey, man, you're a medic. And I go, yeah. And he goes, we should go up there. I said, sure. So we go up there and we're like drinking coffee and it's like, like looking around. He goes, what do you think it is? And I was like, I don't know. Could be anything. Could be somebody who wants to know if they can take allergy meds. They might be checking out their contingency medical pack. Or it could be like a dead guy. It could be anything in between there. And he was like, yeah, fair enough. And so we step out into the lobby and I look over and there's 12 people standing outside of a cubicle doing nothing, which is the pure indicia of a dead guy. So I'm like, hey man, hold my coffee cup. And he was like, oh, for sure. He's super calm, by the way. My buddy Frank. And I go run there and I look and nobody's doing CPR. So I jump in and I do CPR. I bring the guy back. We zap him with the AED. I've never done that before. As a paramedic, you have different paddles to use. I've never actually used the automated, where it checks the rhythm. It's very wild.
It does the shock advise.
Yeah, it's a shock advise. Please. And it's like, clear the thing. They clear, hit the shock. I'm right back on. I pump. We do 4 minutes of CPR compressions. I did them all, just straight 4 minutes. Pretty wild. He comes back. That never happens. So now we have a zombie, which is wild. And then I go up and 2 or 3 years later, as I was leaving the field office, it might've been more than that. It was like 3, it was whatever. I left in 2021. I think this happened in either 2017 or early 2018. And I got an on the spot award, which involved a high five from a GS-13. That was what I got for that. And then I also got 4 hours of paid time off, which is not worth nothing. That's worth, a couple $100. I got 4 hours of paid time off because they sent out an email from the Albuquerque division looking for a computer that was on, the government audit they do every year poorly. And they're like, we're still missing one of the computers. And I looked over at the computer that was in the desk immediately to my right. And then I was like, I found it. And I emailed it to him. And they're like, Kyle's the hero. He just got to the division and he's already finding stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm a real detective. I looked at the freaking computer that was right next to me because it just occurred to me how lazy and stupid people in the government are when it comes to doing that job. By the way, the job was some kind of OST who was probably busy nursing back to health some kind of raccoon, right?
We had a guy in my office in Sioux City who knew agent. I trained him, good, squared away. He went back for training, for Indian country training, and he talked to the program manager and realized that our program in the Omaha division had like $35,000 in funds that we hadn't used. It was just like sitting there. So he came back and was like, hey guys, we have this funding, well, we should use it. And they gave him an on-the-spot award of like $1,000 for
he got a finder's fee for finding money.
He got about like a 3% finder's fee.
What did the American
and
people
we used
get?
that money. We used the money to buy the Polaris Razor.
Perfect. Yeah. And how many times did you use that a year?
None.
Yeah, 0.
I had to draft an MOU to park it at the DEA building because we didn't have the ability to park it at the FBI. So we bought a vehicle that we didn't have space for, and then had to create some interagency memorandum of understanding so that we could park the vehicle that we had no use for in their facility.
Just remember that when a federal agent or a federal government agency wins, the American taxpayer loses. I think that's the message of the day. Is that true?
That's a demotivator.
That's a demotivator. Totally it is. I want to talk about a couple of other little demotivational things. You brought up the bag of groceries being too expensive. I had this video queued up. I didn't really know where it fit in, but I like it because I like when Gavin Newsom says things that don't make any sense. Guys, Gavin Newsom is getting red-pilled by himself. So stand by for this little nugget. This is Gavin Newsom talking about he's at a Target. That's the setup. And the Target girl sees somebody who just walks out with a bunch of stuff, shoplifts. And he says, why didn't you stop that person? Which is also incredible because he's talking to a female and he's Gavin Newsom. He's like a male in the government. And she says, because of the governor. And the governor is standing right in front of her and she doesn't recognize that it's Gavin Newsom. Another one of those moments we're going to cover at the end with James O'Keefe. Apparently people are not paying attention. Like you said, there's infinite information, but it's very narrow cast. So here's Gavin Newsom, very confused and red-pilling himself with his own crappy policies.
Checking out, the woman says, oh, he's just walking out. He didn't pay for that. I said, well, why are you stopping him? She goes, oh, the governor. I swear to God, true story. Oh, my mom's great. The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said, that's just not true. And I said, we have the 10th toughest, $950, the 10th toughest in America. She doesn't even know what I was talking about. By the way, it's the 10th toughest in America. Look it up. No one gives a damn about that. And I said, it's just not true. There's still a stop. They said, well, we don't stop them because of the governor. And then she looks at me twice, and then she freaks out. She calls everyone over, wants to take photos. I'm like, no, I'm not taking a photo. We're having a conversation. Where's your manager? How are you blaming the governor? And it was, $380 later. And I was like, why am I spending $380? Everyone can walk the hell right out.
I mean, why spend the money when you could just shoplift? I think Gavin Newsom is now going to be the newest threat to Target, or he's not going to go into Target either. What do you think, Steve? What's going on here?
My favorite part is when he goes full Karen. He's like, I want to see your manager.
Look, he's the governor. I think Gavin Newsom would be fun to talk to. Is that just me?
Man, you'd think you would be. He's sociopathic, right? Like you'd be kind of nervous.
I don't care.
Like that American Psycho moment, where like maybe you're gonna find yourself getting hacked to death.
No, I'm not gonna turn my back on the guy. I'm not gonna let him go and put on his raincoat and go get the ultra sharp, clean axe. But I would talk to him. He's funny. He's weird.
He seems like he's charismatic. I mean, he's got nice teeth and nice hair. He got kind of crushed when he debated DeSantis. So I think he kind of suffers from what the most California politicians, where they are just in this echo chamber and nobody actually makes them answer for anything.
He's got the 10th most strict. It's $950 before you get a felony.
He's got a solid B- score. He's in the 80th percentile.
Yeah, it's almost $1,000 worth of theft before you have to deal with this stuff. And I see Daughter of the Sun in the chat is saying, listen to his Adam Carolla interviews. I think Adam Carolla is actually really nice to him, but he hammers. I wouldn't go and take him seriously. I would just want to see what kind of weird things I can get out of his brain. If he's got cool stories like that, I'll talk to him. Maybe he'll come talk to us.
How do you think he's going to be when he's 30 years older? Like when he's in that Joe Biden point in life? Like, do you think he's going to be senile, or he's going to be doing the same? Like,
No,
true story, man. True story.
He's going to look the same. I think he's
Just
perfectly
Ken
preserved.
doll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got that rare ability to have, skin stretched across exoskeleton, and he's good always. Sociopathic people don't age. They don't feel they don't have any of the same problems that normal people have, which is that they look around and then they feel guilt, and that weighs on them. And at some point it like literally crushes their spine where they're hobbling around. Yeah, they just walk upright and all that stuff just falls off their back. And they're like, oh, yeah. People are stealing from Target. It's my own fault.
No mess.
Now I'm no longer going to pay at Target. Gavin Newsom, who is a multimillionaire, is now not going to pay at Target. So we got to watch him. I think they should probably put that out there. This should be part of the training video for all employees who are spotting, one, now you can run down shoplifters. They have the 10th toughest laws in the country. And number two, keep an eye on Gavin Newsom. He now doesn't want to spend $380 like he doesn't have it.
And we're back to why aren't the women chasing down the criminal as opposed to
he's
looking? You're supposed to be the man in that situation. Why didn't you do it,
Shame
Gavin?
on you.
I mean,
shame on you.
I imagine you have security, right? You probably could have sent one of your underlings to go do it.
No, he can't do that. He's too busy asking questions. It makes for a great soundbite. You want to make for a really fun one? And this one really concerns me. You just talked about running down criminals. Let's talk about the kind of criminals that our friends at the FBI are running down right now, because I got a good one. This one was put on the website it was on Twitter today by Sedition Hunters, which are my absolute favorite Judases in America. And I just feel like every day must be terrifying for them because they're worried about this. Southwest suburban residents charged with entering the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. An FBI agent alleges that Karen Lynn Fontaine and Brian Dula of Lockport entered a restricted perimeter around the Capitol, and they spent 11 minutes on the Senate side. And so there's a couple of really fun things in there. You guys are seeing the headline. You're seeing the picture of these ultra dangerous people. They are charged with knowingly entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds without lawful authority, disorderly conduct in that place without lawful authority, and disorderly conduct on the Capitol grounds, and parading and demonstrating, the four classic misdemeanors we've seen. They couldn't get in touch with the defense attorneys, may not have them. And for me, the best is the description of the crime. The pair walked down. Sorry, they took photographs of protesters that were at a Capitol door that had been forced open. And then they walked through that door. And then they walked down a hallway. And then they walked down another hallway. And then they walked down another hallway where they left, according to the feds. They spent 11 minutes inside of the building. Talk to me about the pride of work that you must have as an FBI agent that is running down this suburban couple.
I can't because unlike Gavin Newsom, I'm not a sociopath or the agent that signed off on this. You did say something though when you were describing our friends over at the Sedition Hunters. They're American Judases. They're not American. A lot of them. They're from overseas, which
right.
I think is problematic for this main reason. I talked about this with Steve Baker when he came on the American Radicals podcast on rumble.com/amradpod.
Boom.
I said when I worked on child pornography cases, I was told when you would have these do-gooders that would basically do To Catch a Predator, and they would get someone online and bring you the case and say like, hey, this guy's a pedophile. I posed as a kid and he's trying to meet with me. Like, here you go. And we were not allowed to take those cases because we were told that they were vigilantes and basically fruit of the poisonous tree. We could not prosecute those cases. They were gone.
Which is, by the way, that's not true.
Difference?
We know that's true, not true. And also, Alex Rosen does this all the time for like a living. That's what his whole organization does, I Fight for Kids, which we'll have him on pretty soon. He agreed to be on the show here. But 100%, if you get evidence, even if somebody breaks into a building and gets evidence and gives it to you, even though you were not authorized to do it, as long as you didn't tell them to go do so, that's not fruit of the poisonous tree. It's shady and it's bad news. But like, what would you rather have? Steve Friend running after pedophiles that have outed themselves to some half-assed, organization that wants to go and pretend to be undercover online kids? I'm sort of okay with that. I don't get it.
I am too, but my point is that it's an inconsistency. So the FBI says we can't take those; they're vigilante, but we can take the Sedition Hunters, and they're not vigilantes. So are you turning down those vigilantes, quote unquote, from the child porn side because you just don't want to work those cases?
Well, are the Sedition Hunters, are they going to find the pipe bomber? Because it's about time they've turned their lens to the most terroristic act of sedition that happened, whether or not it was related to January 6th. It happened on the same day. Good enough for me. And apparently the very, very racist pipe bomber tried to kill the first black, whatever she is, female, whatever a woman is, vice president of the United States, who was in a building that she had no business being in on a day that she had no business being there. But I'm just saying, it seems really problematic. Maybe we should be going after that. Maybe they could spend all their Dutch resources and overseas European thought processes on that particular problem, which would be great. I'd be fine for it.
I would be fine if the FBI did the same thing too. I mean, that was the most terrorist thing that day, right? If you're going to say this is the largest terrorist investigation, when, side note, most of the January 6 cases are 176s, which are a riot, which are a criminal offense, which means that they are not terrorist investigations. So they are yet being labeled that way to hit the quotas. But that is an actual act of terrorism. And we're not going to pursue that angle. We're going to go after these people who, I don't know, walked down a hallway and then went down another hallway and then another hallway and then they left. So they walked through a public building and went home.
Yeah. How many hallways is that? North hallway, lower corridor, north door. It's 3 hallways. That's too many hallways. How
many times do you think they watched the video in the FBI office to
there they are. There they are right there like that. Like,
yeah,
high-fiving on the spot awards everywhere for identifying the subject, this very dangerous MAGA hat wearing dude who like walks in and goes like, I've never been in the, all right, well, that's not what I thought it was going to be. And then walks out.
Well, when Garrett and I were leaving the Rayburn building, like you can get lost in there really easily. You can see the people are looking around because they have no idea where you are. You have no concept of direction once you enter those 4 walls. And I think a lot of people were there for 11 minutes. They were probably lost for about
it's like
9 and a half.
It's like a whole city block. Like that building is huge.
It's a skyscraper that's laid down on its side.
Nice. I like that. Let me do, let me say thanks to a sponsor real quick, and then I'm going to get back into the political theater thing because we've got some really fun ones, and then it also kind of plays into what's been going on in New York. So I've got political theater from New York in just 1 second. And before we do that, let's just say thanks to my buddies over at Patriot Cooler. There it is. That one works. Patriot Cooler, promo code Kyle. You guys go to patriotcoolers.com. There's an S on the end of it. Patriotcoolers.com, promo code Kyle. And you can get yourself one of these. You can get yourself one of those cool looking hard-sided coolers like we have in the back of our minivan. You guys see it full of groceries there. That's the Seraphin family minivan loaded up from HEB, which they say stands for Here Everything's Better. But we know it stands for Herbert E. Butts, which is the name of the person that started that grocery store. Guys, patriotcoolers.com, one of our OG sponsors, started right in the beginning when we were just getting off the ground. We're really appreciative of them. If you guys are in the market for a new tumbler, check them out. I've been using them since 2017. Big fan. They have a great looking product. It says Patriot on them. It's got 50 stars on the bottom of all the tumblers, which I'm a big fan of as well. And they put, little Americana things. When you open it up, people walk by, they'll look into your trunk and they'll go, dang, look at that. It literally says Patriot branded right across the top, if you can see it right there on our Rumble page. If you haven't, you can also check them out on social media. It's at Patriot Coolers, or go again to patriotcoolers.com. The promo code is Kyle. It saves you 10%. You'll get free shipping over $50. Let's bring on Mayor Adams, shall we? Should we do a little Mayor Adams, and then we'll get a reflection of what in the heck is going on? He's got hype music. He's got walkout music. He's doing theatrical cool guy stuff. Here is Mayor Adams.
And those who wish they could. You got this.
It's not a very long clip. It is a silly clip. That's Mayor Adams with hype music set up because he's got speakers. He's walking by staged trash bags, for those of you who are not watching. He's getting out of a flipping garbage truck, wearing a suit, but he's also wearing, the safety vest. And Jay-Z is playing Empire State of Mind so that he can go out there and give a speech about, I don't know, whatever he talks about. What is going on with this dude? Who does hype music out of a garbage truck?
Well, he has a brand, right? New York has a brand. That's what he's all about. And he's doing the same thing that all these guys do. Yeah, he's wearing the city employee jacket over the top of his $600 suit and the ball cap. Like,
I'm sure his suit is more than $600.
I did notice the photographers even were like laughing and smiling with him. Like that guy is surrounded. His entire entourage is with sycophants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone. I mean, I have no love lost for Eric Adams. I think he's probably a terrible human being. He's proven that. But at the same time, I think if you're surrounded by that, nobody to hold you in check. He's a renowned bachelor, right? He doesn't have a good woman behind him. Just like my wife would be smacking me in the back of the head. It's nothing but scar tissue back there at this point from her saying like, "What are you doing?" Try to hold you in check. And if you don't have that, man, that ego, especially when you're in a position of authority, like New York is the most important city in America. He's handling resources that people can't wrap their head around. And he's unapologetic about what he does too. He says like, well, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go on vacation down in the Bahamas and I'm going to go party in the middle of the week. And like, I don't feel bad for you, New York. You voted for it. You voted for it.
You did indeed. Look at this, folks, because this is going to segue right into what's going on in New York, which is a disaster in many ways. This is a little report coming from law enforcement today. And the story, which you are seeing on the headline right up front, is a bombshell report. The UN handed out $1.6 billion through NGOs. Oh, this is a shocker. If you've listened to the show, that won't surprise you. Maybe the number might. And it helps give debit cards to illegal immigrants. What if we told you that the American taxpayers are funding their own demise? What if we told you that most Americans are oblivious to that fact? That's why we're telling you. And what if we told you that taxpayer money is being laundered through the United Nations to fund the invasion of our own country? All of this is true. It's a pretty strong stance from law enforcement today. I like what they're saying. The 2021 Biden-inspired invasion of our southern border started, several lawmakers said in a proposed bill, that they want to cut off this funding that's coming in from the UN, and simply put, those that monies is going directly through the Interagency Coordination Platform for Refugees and Migrants from Venezuela, otherwise known as R4V for short, and it outlines how much money is actually going to 17 Latin American countries. These people are straight up like funding our own invasion with our own money, which we fund like close to 25% of the UN. Like, it's our own fault for not paying attention, I guess. Who knew this was coming down?
And they're able to hide it in this web of laundering. Money is fungible, moves from one organization to another And look, eminent domain, not a fan. I would apply it to the UN. I think we need to demolish the building and put like a parking lot there, or maybe a homeless encampment. But I'm sort of reminded of when Garrett and I talked to Tiffany Justice this week, and she brought up a stat that I didn't know. She said that the left has around 21,000 single issue organizations.
Right.
They just push one issue, and the right has like 4,000. Mostly the right just like does get out the vote. Like, well, we'll vote for better people to spend our money. And they're not really worried about this. But when you have just by a 5x volume of single issues, they're able to form these NGOs, then go to the government, get these grants, and then they go and do this. We're funding our own demise here. And because they made it so complicated, people, even if they want to pay attention, your eyes just kind of gloss over with the acronyms and the tracing the money. I mean, which is, I have no patience for the oversight committee in Congress, because they're like, they're always out there like trying to prove these connections. And I'm like, man, it's too complicated for people. People don't have the time or the bandwidth. And you guys are excited that you like connected one organization to another. Like, that doesn't have the impact that you think it does, because there's not the smoking gun. By the time you get to the gun, there's no smoke. They've already cleaned it.
That's right. The other thing that's really interesting too, I think, is that most people are motivated by one thing. And then the idea that you would be going after multiple, that's the cat with the laser pointer. That's distraction where you can never keep track of it. We basically have the attention span to get really, really passionate about one thing. You might be able to move the needle on that. So single issue advocacy groups are where you're going to move people's passions, I think. I had a guy that was telling me in Connecticut, this is years ago, this is before I was in the FBI even, or maybe I was just a new FBI agent, and we're sitting on a balcony, and unexpected, but he's a lawyer in Connecticut at this like leftist lawyers dinner party, family friends. And we're sitting there and we're talking about guns, of which he knew far more than I would expect for a guy in Connecticut who was wearing a suit. And I think he was of Indian descent, if my memory serves. And so he had like, he had an Indian last name, and we're sitting there, we're BSing about this stuff. He's probably like a Patel, right? And so we're BSing about stuff. And he just goes, I'm a single issue voter on guns. And I was like, whoa, really? And he was like, anything for gun freedom, I'm for. Anybody that's not for it, I'm against. The end. It's the only freedom I care about. And it's like, yep, that's how you get people.
I've kind of come around on that with defunding the FBI. Like, if you don't say that you're going to do that, then you don't have my support on that. But I think that there's actual some logic behind that. There's some polling organizations that I know, they've gone to like states, and they basically poll single issues. It'll be like pro-life or pro-gun. And because that carries the Venn diagrams overlap with so many other issues, that if you poll on those, then it indicates ideology generally. For
you can poll
area.
on January 6th, by the way. The American Rorschach test. All these things are Rorschach tests.
That's the perfect one.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's keep pushing forward, because I've got a little bit more of this. I want to show this video, which I actually had queued up here. This is the video of the beatdown that happened in New York. It's got no audio, folks, so we're going to have Steve just do some commentary on what he sees. He's going to give notes to the migrants and cops, and then we'll also kind of break down what's going on with that story, because there's some new developments as well. This is the beatdown that happened in a New York, I believe it's a subway platform. So what are we seeing here?
It appears that we have multiple people beating on New York City police officer on the ground. They have a second one on his feet trying to pull off one of the primary assaulters, but they're completely overwhelmed. It doesn't matter. There's two of them, and we've now seen 8-10 people run in there and get their shots in.
Yeah.
And run out.
It's a nightmare scenario as a police officer, because you're trying to do a lawful arrest, you're trying to bring somebody into custody, and then the only problem is that you're actually facing down pretty much everybody at the same time, and they're all running in and out. So you're basically fighting tag teams that are illegally tagging in. It's just,
how does that not go to deadly force? I mean, how does it not?
The minute
you're back to somebody,
you want to talk about
at
that?
all times.
Yeah, the minute that you are knocked out, now we have a gun that's loose in the fight. So maybe how that justifies deadly force.
Because like you just said, like if you go out, they have access to your weapon. You have to assume. I always went off that assumption. Like if I have my gun drawn and the person runs at me, you can't tell me that their intention is not to take the gun from me and use it on me. That's a deadly force situation. And you'd always have an argument with a lawyerly type, like, well, no, they haven't tried to inflict serious bodily injury on you. Like, yeah, I was like, but a logical deduction is like, no person is going to run at you if you have a gun pointed at them, which is also the problem there for that officer. Like once he draws that gun, like you can't undo that. You can't unring that bell. And now you have a handgun and you have 10 people coming around. I mean, you're going to run out of ammunition pretty quick, but like it's an unwinnable situation for those two guys. And all they can do is scream on the radio and hope that help comes. But with the rate of retirements and quitting from the New York City Police Department, like is help close by? Probably not.
No, probably not at all. So here, the update yesterday from the New York Daily News saying that migrants accused of fighting NYPD cops are held on bail. There's now one. They love migrant. It's an illegal alien. And 5 other suspects were actually let free, which we've got some video of that. We'll play that in 1 second. You guys probably have already seen it, but we'll play it anyway. This guy is accused of being at the center of Saturday's caught on video attack, which we just showed you. Well, he's out on bail. The other 4 subjects in the incident were just released. This guy's name is Henry Brito. He's 24 years old. He was the person the officers were seen attempting to place under arrest at that time, but he resisted by swinging his arms and tensing up. And that brought in this fight that started on the ground. Suddenly they're attacked from all sides. As you said, I think they've basically identified at least 10 people were involved in that. So I think your number is correct. They've got 8 of them identified at this point. And this dude is just out there. He was charged with felony assault. And it looks like, of course, he's an illegal alien. He's here as a quote unquote migrant. He's been sort of paroled in. But the thing that I found really interesting, and I got another little piece, I think I've got another picture of him. So there's some of the guys that are walking free. This is in the article as well. They were let go they were ordered to be held on a $15,000 cash bail or a $50,000 bond. Of course, the guy has prior arrests, doesn't have a permanent address, doesn't actually live in New York. And then him and the other guys that were freed, there were 4 subjects freed. They went straight to a Catholic church. This is pretty problematic. They were provided with phony names and the help they needed to get bus tickets. They got on buses and they skipped town heading west. No one really knows. They believe they were heading maybe towards California. The police officers were like, can they leave? Yes. But if they miss their next court date, then there's going to be a warrant. But of course, they're going to be gone. They will have absconded. And this guy, Brito, had 2 prior petty larceny charges. He was accused of stealing $275 worth of merchandise at Bergdorf's and another $139 worth of clothing at Macy's. And on top of that, sounds like he had some additional thefts that were going on in a Burlington coat factory. These guys are just out there stealing, and then they're turning around and selling it. The other guy that was standing next to him was caught stealing things from a Nordstrom rack. And now, of course, felony assault on a police officer. No big deal. This is the kind of stuff we're bringing in. I mean, it's New York. That's their brand now, huh?
Yeah, and apparently unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, the UFAP, is not going to be in effect.
Where's the FBI on that one, huh?
You would think that one of their violent crimes, Project Safe Neighborhoods task forces would be all over that because that'd be an easy case for them to run down. But their priorities are elsewhere, apparently. I mean, like they're really only interested in taking cases that are actually being charged by police and prosecutors and taking it off their hands, like, robbing a Lowe's for a $500 air conditioner. Like they're happy and content to do that.
Don't do the real work where you got to actually run somebody down. Let's take a peek at this. This is this future patriot. Maybe we'll be able to run for office in America. This is one of the guys that was involved as he was leaving the courthouse when he was let out, just on his own recognizance. It's a good video. It's coming from Fox, even though it's still, I think it's illuminating.
Just into Fox News now, NYPD making 2 more arrests, illegal immigrants, and that attack on officers. Those suspects also allegedly stole an officer's cell phone. Well, that'll help them track you down. So, a fifth illegal immigrant accused of attacking two New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Yep, there it is. I like that. Just give them the double-barreled, family-friendly middle fingers, putting them up on your head, put your hood down. That was a nice jacket he was wearing, too. Where do you think he got that? Burlington?
Either Burlington or
Nordstrom Rack.
Macy's. Whenever they just riot somewhere, they just go and pillage whatever store they need to. The other guy had the Kobe Bryant shirt on. Like those aren't cheap.
Mm-mm.
And we're just funding our own demise here, and everybody's sitting by. And I don't like the Fox language of illegal immigrant. Like they just call them illegal aliens and deport them immediately. I get really frustrated with this whole situation because nobody apparently will take it seriously. Even the people who are border hawks. I was on another program earlier this week, and they asked me like, "What would you do at the border?" And I was like, nobody is comfortable with what I would do at the border, because I would put a young man who's got anger and aggression and lots of testosterone because he's 18 and in the military to find a outlet for that rage, and I'd have him on top of a Humvee with a 50 cal, and if you see somebody, you just let her go. That's what it's going to require. But we have to have NGOs down at the border. They're going to give them sandwiches and water and facilitate their travel to wherever they want to go so they can assault police officers and steal whatever they want. And that's why they're laughing at us, and they should.
Where are you at with the alligators or crocodiles in the moat situation and the electrified border wall?
Avow. But can we get Elon Musk down there to just fund the border wall?
What if he had one of those enormous Tesla coil things, or what are those zappers called that if you walk in it, it just hits you with the lightning bolt, like the Tesla coil? An area denial Tesla coil that's just sitting here going, it's got the lightning bolts inside the ball that you walk too close to it, you get zapped, like the Oracle from Neverending Story.
Just like the Tough Mudders, where they have the hanging wires, as you come through it, it hits you with 10,000 volts as you come off.
I don't care about volts. I care about current. We need higher current, and it needs to be able to land. Yeah, just like, oh, you want to come in here? You're going to have to crawl through our watery pit made of hanging live electrical wires. Zap. Yeah, all that. But I think the Tesla coil is more visual because you can hear them. You've seen these things in the science experiment rooms where you go and it's it's a big coil. It's got a big glass dome on it. And you could see it at night. It would just be going shooting lightning bolts everywhere. And people are like, not today.
It looks like something out of a Marvel movie.
No más para mí. I don't know how to do Spanish, but that's what it would be.
I habla a little bit.
Only to bring people in. All right. So we're going to advocate that we add to the Trump border plan of alligators and electrified walls, actually Tesla coils every, a couple hundred feet. Think about the American industry that you would spawn that. I think that's actually a big government sort of wet dream. They're going to be able to get the defense industry building new Tesla coils that we've never had before. We could do a lot of work with this. It's better than giving money to Ukraine. I'll just say that.
Well, I mean, that's it. We have to somehow marry that with funding Ukraine. And we're having our really serious people.
We could buy the energy. Yeah, we could buy the fuel from Ukraine maybe to run the Tesla coils, and that way they're good to go. What do you think? We're spitballing here, but I think we've got some real solutions that would be.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably what Donald Trump was doing when he was talking about the alligators.
Just sitting on the toilet.
He was taking very, very seriously.
Yeah. Okay. I got some really serious 2 stories to end because it's the weekend and we can't be bringing people down for the weekend. It makes me depressed and I don't want to be that. So I want to tell you about just how good Biden's economy is. It's so good that this story just appeared in the New York Post. God bless the New York Post for just bringing the silliness. This, if you're not seeing it, is a mediocre looking woman wearing some glasses that look librarianish, a beta male who looks like he could be a regular dude, and then another guy who has bleached out bluish hair holding crossed kitchen utensils. She's carrying a stick. It's unclear why. And it says, I live with my husband and my boyfriend. Polyamory is the only way that we can afford a home. You know what? Nothing says moral depravity like making sure that you can afford living in a home by having 2 dudes sharing the same lady. It works out really well in history. Jennifer Martin says she and her husband, Daniel, were struggling to pay rent until they welcomed a new unlikely tenant into their home, her boyfriend, Ty. The polyamorous mom, that makes it even worse, spoke with the Post, saying her unorthodox living situation has been a financial blessing amid soaring inflation. I wonder how she votes. What do you guys think? She hails from Richmond, Virginia. Housing is particularly bad in that area. So Jennifer, 35, Daniel, 36, were married back in 2008. Good for them, a long time ago. Quickly welcomed 2 kids and then welcomed another dude to jump into the bed and start banging mom. The 2015, they decided to open up their marriage and try polyamory. I don't think it had anything to do with Joe Biden's America at that point. It's just because they're morally depraved. The 3 years later, but by the way, there's a picture, and I should have thrown this one up there, Steve. The guy who has the blue hair that you're seeing on the screen, he actually looked like a man. He had long hair and a big like Jesus beard back in the day, and now he just looks ridiculous. Which one is he? He's the guy on the right. Yeah, he's the guy on the right. So the boyfriend that came in is that kind of soft-looking dude on the left with the darker hair. So that's where we're at. What do we think? Just open up your marriage? Isn't that kind of like renting out your wife to pay the bills? It used to be called prostitution.
That's what I always say. You have to put things in the most absurd terms and to have them hold water. And I think you stated it pretty well. Like, you're renting your wife out so that you can afford your rent. I'm really worried. What are the odds that in this threesome that maybe there's 2 children also now being included in that too? Perhaps that should be something that we should draw attention to.
Never mind.
What are the odds that one of them,
take kids away from
both of them?
Let's take kids away from people that want to not transition their child over and chop off their genitals or chemically castrate them. Let's make sure that we protect these non-traditional, also known as possible Hobbs Act violations of moving, a female across interstate lines to facilitate immoral purpose. Is that a Hobbs Act violation? I feel like it is.
I always just knew Hobbs Act is like drug dealers killing each other. I never had a chance to work.
Everything can be a Hobbs Act violation.
It seems like, I was like, that's a public service homicide. Like, why are we working this?
Somebody was telling me that there was a situation in Montana that if like a child molester, pedophile, like that was pretty well adjudicated, if you came up on the scene and you found, like the guy had been executed by probably a family member that saw what was going on and there were shell casings and a handgun left there, they'd be like, well, there's no obvious leads to be able to pursue on this one. Looks like this guy, we'll never find him.
That's right.
Yeah, the public service homicide is an interesting, that's sort of not the way that we like to think about our justice system if it works. But when it doesn't work, that's the fully Western idea. I don't think leftists understand how close we're going to get to that if they keep with this stupidity, which is pretty significant.
And apparently they're still too comfortable. They haven't had enough Burlington factories been robbed yet, and they haven't had their own police officers kicked around the street enough yet. But it'll eventually find its way into the suburbs, and when it does, maybe then they will just have some regret about their voting patterns, and they'll probably then all move to Florida and ruin my state.
They're going to ruin your state that way? I hope they don't. I got a graphic. I just had to go throw it on the screen here for you. This is the graphic of how that works. I think. What do you think of that one? So apparently, if
the baby of a Nazi and a communist is a Democrat,
that's what it said. I don't know if that's true or not, folks. You guys can let me know in the comments. Is that legit? Is that real? Is that actually the way the breeding pattern works? That fascists and communists, 2 authoritarian totalitarians, are going to give birth to like lunatic leftists at this point that hate babies and love weird polyamorous couples?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to dig more into that.
I don't know how the evolutionary loop happens. It obviously does happen. There's something going on there. Let's get even weirder. We're going to do some novel reporting here from the Babylon Bee, which is telling us the real truth about what happened in a very groundbreaking or whatever bombshell thing from O'Keefe Media Group. I'm just gonna put it up here. There's no reason to hype this any further. Folks, apparently James O'Keefe says that he will be gay with as many men as needed to get to the bottom of deep state corruption. James O'Keefe, as you guys probably saw in our thumbnail, is absolutely unrecognizable with simply a pair of glasses on. If you put a pair of glasses on, he's just like Clark Kent. The original disguise is putting on glasses. Nobody will ever know who you are. It's been working since the 1930s. He says, quote, dinner and drinks with gay dudes for priceless info on the Biden administration. That's nothing. I'm willing to do all sorts of stuff with guys if they're willing to talk to me about corruption in public schools, the DOJ, you name it. I can't. I just can't. How silly is it that we keep finding that it's just like young gay guys that are willing to talk to the O'Keefe types? And I don't know why we're acting like these people have any. He's a chief at the White House. The dude drives a Kia. He's not a chief of anything.
Oh, he's got a coexist bumper sticker. No question about it. I honestly, I'm back to the narrow casting. I think James O'Keefe is known very prominently to a lot of people on the right, but that doesn't mean that he's known to anybody on the left. I mean, they can sort of just, because of the algorithms, they can block all that out and they can watch. I don't think MSNBC is covering James O'Keefe very often. He just looks like a regular white dude with glasses. And he took this guy. It's the same. They did it Project Veritas, and now it's the OMG. They get these guys who are out on a date and they're trying to impress their date, and they build themselves up as having, making hyperbolic statements as one is wont to do to impress your date. And then they take it as a giant expose. I'm kind of shaking my head because he was coming out before that saying like, "Oh, my life's at risk now." And I'm like, well, because you were exposing that people don't like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's losing it.
And that a gay guy works at the White House.
You didn't have to go to a date to figure that out.
No, maybe he wanted to go on the date. We don't know. People at Project Veritas were reaching out to me before all this stuff. I have a lot of contacts from the previous organization that was Project Veritas. Kind of amusing. The other thing I always dislike is like so-called journalism when you're going to go like, imagine someone meets Steve Friend at the grocery store and it's like, so what do you do for a living? He's like, well, I'm an FBI agent. And they're like, oh, you're pretty high up in the government, aren't you? And you're like, I don't know how to explain it to you because you don't know anything about the government. So you just go, yeah, no, I'm pretty high up in the government. That's what this kid does. Like this poor gay guy. He's like, so you work on a security desk? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you're pretty high up on the government, aren't you? I watched all this stuff and I just cringe and laugh. And then also to pair that with like my life might be in danger for this like non-information from them low level poor guy that just lost his job. I'm sure they're just like, sorry, dude, you're too dumb. You're going on your Grindr profile has just ruined your political career in the White House. You're done. But we'll give you a job at NRO or something. We'll send you down the road.
It's you're sort of reminded of you've talked about it before, like how you would write these awards up for the military, and they would just be words that meant something, but we were trying to convey that like the person did something like really awesome, which is back to the On the Spot Awards. Mm-hmm. And like, what was my job description? I mean, amongst people, I'm like, yeah, I was an agent. And people who know in the FBI, they're like, okay, so you just, you work cases. But if I told someone who didn't know, like, hey, just so you know, I was a senior resident agent working on Indian country crimes and eventually transferred to work on child exploitation operations unit and human trafficking, and then really zeroed down on the national security side.
Sounds really big.
Sounds really good, right? Like, yeah. I mean, but
let me say this:
just an agent. I put handcuffs on somebody, like a cop. Like that's it.
The older you get, the more that you're willing to downplay your own background and experience, because one, you understand what it means in reality and you have a real grounded basis. And number two, I hope that you take yourself less seriously in the world. And so like, that's why there's a lot of things that I am. I'm a former restaurant manager and I was a corporate sales guy and I worked in finance for WB, and I was a paramedic and I was an FBI agent and I worked and I was in the military. All of those things are secondary to what I do right now, which is that I'm a podcast host. And if that's diminutive to somebody, that's their problem, because I already know who I am. I'm really just a husband and a father who sits here every day and talks to a cool audience. So that's really neat. But what's funny is when you're young, they can give you compensation without giving you money. And it comes in the form of titles. And we'll find it. It's like, oh, I'm the senior vice president of executive sales. It's like, what do you do? I was like, oh, I pick up the phone whenever people call and they yell at me about their crappy job. It's like that. That's the thing that young people are conned into all over the place. And this poor kid, and I only say that, like, we don't have any sympathies for his political ideology or anything else, but he's just a dude who's gay in DC, which is prominent. And he's working at the White House, which is probably his dream job, which is now crushed because he was on Grindr. And then he met James O'Keefe, who has a Grindr profile, apparently, based on what we're seeing here, and is able to run down gay dudes who have government placement. And they have titles that don't mean anything. It's the same thing as the Pfizer one, which I didn't ever talk about this at the time, but the Pfizer one was silly too. Like, they were like, he was a director. He's like, he's not like the FBI director where he's the top guy. He was like some low-level dude. He was like a program director, which means he had 50 bosses and he was a contractor. So we have to just, it's dishonesty to act like these are groundbreaking. And that, when we hear the thing about the right-wing grift, there's so many people that are like, breaking news. It's like, no, it's not breaking. It's garbage. This is trash. This is just some poor guy who's now, his life is over for a few minutes, or he's going to be famous in the gay community and he'll be doing, something. He seemed like a nice kid, even if he has crappy ideas. And he's trying to impress James O'Keefe, who's like probably older and, has glasses on. It's very exciting. He probably was telling all of his boyfriends that he was amped up about this date. And then he got outed and had no idea what he was talking about. Narrow cast indeed. It's just sad. I don't even know where to go with that.
It is, and I mean, But people were waiting for this announcement.
I know. They thought he was going to die. Like, I wish I had the people will die, the Remy thing. You know, like James O'Keefe comes out with groundbreaking information. Kamala Harris is not very nice to her staff. And also Joe Biden is old.
It's the expose journalism thing is tough once you're kind of known. I know he's trying to start his own new organization. I remember when he made it big on the Acorn thing. But when I look back at Acorn, like, what happened out of that? They probably just formed a new organization with a different name, and they're doing the exact same thing, right?
Yep.
I mean, we're still taking prostitutes and taking them over state lines to go have abortions from Montana to Wyoming. That was reported this week. Like, so what was the actual impact of that? Oh, it gave us a bombshell Chiron on Fox News, which is why I'm going to make sure, and we're in the second month of it now. I'm keeping my list. Bombshells, flashbangs, and training bangs.
Yeah, inert devices. I think that's going to be a really fun thing in however many months, 10 months from now, when you get to actually air it all. Okay, we're going to wrap this thing up with a little, first off, since GOB is in the chat right now, we'll say something about GOB actual. Let's see if this one actually queued up. There it is. You can go to the merch store, folks, if you want to support GOB. Look, that's my favorite shirt. That's my actual favorite shirt. It's in the right color. It's got the right logo on it. It's the-suspendables.com. Again, the-suspendables.com. You can use promo code Kyle, save yourself a couple of bucks. Support the O'Boyle family sweatshop, which is always a great thing to do. Keep the lights whirring. You know, even if the lights go out there, as long as he's got that heating press, it'll actually stay warm in the basement for quite a while as the kids are chained to their poor sewing machines and their t-shirt stamping apparatus. Keep them going. The-suspendables.com. Support the O'Boyle family sweatshop. Still working. Apparently, they let Garrett step away for a few minutes to get into the chat and tell you folks what's going on. Again, promo code Kyle. Definitely support them. These are our favorite people, and they're in the weirdest position. Somebody who actually wanted to do something decent in the world, right? Wanted to do something decent and got kicked out. Now he's stuck, chained in a basement, stamping out T-shirts for you, just like the one that I'm wearing right now, which I'm wearing the Are You Suspendables shirt, which, you know, it's probably like in my top 2 favorite. I really love the badge part of it. I actually like the PT one on the back in gray. I didn't know I was going to like it. I thought I liked black T-shirts because that's how I started doing this show. But anyway, it is what it is. Steve, I got a picture of you or a video of you from the future. So folks, if you think that America is dead, it actually, if we look forward in about 30, 35 years, we're actually going to still have an American system. There will still be people speaking at meetings in front of the city council. And here is Steve Friend, our buddy, the real Steve Friend, talking to his city council in like 2050. Ready?
Send it.
Okay, here we go.
Good evening, cowards. Rick Hubbard, 97 Spruce Lane. Nice to see a bunch of fat, ugly women. What?
Excuse you.
What?
Can we see the agenda?
No. I'm speaking. They're fat, ugly women is what they are. Let's talk about it.
We're not having that.
You don't have to. Bye.
That ain't free speech.
It's called free speech. Bye.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Bye. That's good. Shut up.
I don't know why you're so crotchety in the future, Steve. How'd you get so angry at these fat, ugly women? Why'd you call everybody a coward? What's going on?
That's not free speech. That's insulting. That's free speech.
That's exactly what free speech is. We need a T-shirt.
I want his autograph.
I do too. Rick Hubbard. We know where to find him. His address is out there. Hold on, one more time. I just love he leads it off with the best lead off that's ever been done. Good evening,
we
cowards.
We should have done that when I went to Congress.
Here we go.
Damn
Ready?
it.
Here we go.
Good evening, cowards.
He's so soft about it as he just comes in. He's not announcing anything crazy. Yeah, and then they're offended. You didn't see it, but a couple of fat ladies actually walked out after he did it. They're just like, oh. It's like, welcome to free speech. Old, grouchy men tend to be old and grouchy. I don't know how else to explain it to you.
Man, I'm really looking forward to my senility years. My Joe Biden years are going to be lots of fun, and I'll have that as an example. That's a crown jewel moment. And he probably helped those women out. They probably went and binged and purged and got a few extra steps in that day.
Shame on you. I told you it's coming.
It's good citizenship.
Yes, we know it's coming because Steve Friend is a grouch extraordinaire. Guys, you can pick up Steve's book. There it is. That is the True Blue, Steve's journey from beat cop to FBI whistleblower. You can find it on Amazon. It's still there. Steve, you'll be amused to know that they actually sell a used copy of your book on Amazon. It's $24 for the hard copy. It's $19.99 with $4 shipping if you buy the used copy. So either way, you're getting the same deal. If you guys want a new version of Steve books,
it's probably Ryan Riley's version. He's probably trying to resell it and get it used because I know he got a copy. Thanks, by the way, Ryan, for the for the royalty because you were quoting it. So I know
Ryan
you did
Riley
that.
of Sedition Hunters. That's the tie back. Right?
Yes, that is. He is. He's. I'm anxiously anticipating seeing his book where he's going to be outing the Sedition Hunters, which
He did. It's already. It's out there. Is he going to give you another one?
I want a signed copy.
Oh, okay. We want a signed copy. Yeah. If we're mentioning it, we should have one. All right. Let's shut this thing down. Tell people what you got coming up on AMRAD for tomorrow, and let them know where to follow it.
You can follow AMRAD, the American Radicals podcast, on Rumble. It's rumble.com/AMRADpod. Noontime, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Garrett is taking the solo train tomorrow. He's got a program ready to go. I'm doing some tactical training back next week. And we have Xi Van Fleet, who escaped communist China and wrote a book about Mao's America, as a guest next week. So we're excited to talk about that.
Awesome. Look forward to it. I will be able to catch Saturday's show. Those are the only ones that I actually have the bandwidth for. We appreciate it. Thanks for giving me the Groundhog Day update. Steve Friend, ladies and gentlemen, at Real Steve Friend on Twitter. Make sure you're following him, and make sure you're following AMRADPod, AMRADPOD, if I could get my letters correct. Those were the right letters in the wrong order. Thanks for joining me again on a Friday, and we'll wrap this thing up, Steve.
All right. Have a great weekend.
All right, buddy. Folks, if you are enjoying the show, make sure you are supporting our friends over at Catholic Vote as well. It's catholicvote.org. Again, catholicvote.org. You can go there and get the loop, which you should get if you want more news than you got today, because you got a little bit more snarky content than always happens. Go ahead and get the loop by going to catholicvote.org, putting in your email address, clicking loop me in. You'll get the best 1-minute email read that you will find on the internet. It is free. It costs you nothing. And if you want to support Catholic Vote, you can always do that by clicking on the green button. You can do a one-time donation. You can do a multi-time donation, a recurring donation. They are in the fight for faith, family, and freedom. I feel like that might be the fastest that I've ever said all of that stuff. And lastly, I want to say thanks to all of you on the live chat who have been giving us little information, and I saw a bunch of this Rumble rants. Let me try to pull them up here. I'm not going to be able to throw them on the screen, but if you are not on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin, you're missing out on that. Christopher WTC007 said, ha ha ha, your Grindr profile just ruined your career. It's true, Chris. You know I'm correct. Also said happy Groundhog's Day. Thanks so much for the Rumble rants. We do appreciate those. They're not necessary, but they are appreciated, and all of you all can join us again on rumble.com. If you're watching anywhere else, if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, if God forbid you're on YouTube, I get it. It's convenient. Join Rumble. You're going to see the revolution. It's free speech. We don't get demonetized. I was literally on Sarah Gonzalez from Blaze TV yesterday, and as soon as they went live, they immediately got a context warning about January 6th and demonetized. I'm sure that's the kind of way that we're not going to be able to get real news. We're not going to be able to get real commentary. We can't even get real comedy if you stick around with YouTube. It's all censored and it's all going slanted to the left because they're owned by the Google. In any case, 5-star review coming, new music coming. We will get you guys new music. I didn't grab a 5-star review today. I actually grabbed a couple here, which I will read right off. These ones are from Spotify, which I always leave off the list. We almost always do the Apple reviews, but this one says, from its NODCC 7 days ago, said, really good to hear what actually goes on in the FBI. That's what you get from Steve Friend. This one said, a totally awesome episode. This was posted yesterday. I wouldn't expect anything less. And our last one was, Kyle is another 81 baby. This is from BFDBK. Kyle is another 1981 baby. I find your worldview and analysis spot on. Thank you for speaking to all of us patriots. And yeah, it's my pleasure. Folks, this show's for you. We really love it. Make sure you're giving us a thumbs up and a like. Make sure you're sharing it if you liked what you heard. Make sure you're following and subscribing. And we will see you after the weekend. God bless you. Be safe. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.